evening. I'm Jane Velez Mitchell in for Nancy Grace. Tonight, bombshells in the desperate search for a 3-year-old Florida girl, Caylee Anthony.
As I opened up the trunk, I was glad because there was my daughter and my granddaughter were there. I'm thankful for that.
Right.
But there was a trash bag. I don't know what size gallon. It was a kitchen-type trash bag. It was white in color, it was almost transparent. Inside of it, I could see a pizza box. I couldn't make it out what pizza it was, but there was pizza full of maggots and all kind of stuff. An odor that was very, very, very strong. The guy reached inside and he says, "Oh, this is where your smell's coming from." And he took it real quick and dropped it in the dumpster, which was probably 20 or 30 feet away from where we were at.
Are you convinced, and based on what you know as a law enforcement officer in your background, are you convinced in any way that the maggots were solely caused by the pizza, or do you think that there's a distinct odor that you recognized that day that was in the car? And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but I'm putting it out there based on what I know, and I'm asking you your opinion.
That distinct odor, that's something you never forget. That distinct odor, I believe something was placed in the back of that trunk. I don't want to believe it was my granddaughter.
I understand.
I don't want to believe it's any other kind of any other thing but that piece. That's why I don't want to try to believe it's not. But I deep inside my heart feel it's not.
It's not your granddaughter.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm hoping it's not. I don't want to believe it's not. I mean, I'm trying to believe it's not. But then again, like I said, and you guys know, once you smell that smell, you never get over it.
Fast-breaking developments tonight in the Caylee Anthony investigation. For the very latest, let's go straight out to Mark Williams, news director with WNDV News Talk 1150. Mark, what is the very latest?
Jane, some breaking news. As we've stated, that there's the state attorney's office today releasing crucial FBI video of interviews with George and Cindy Anthony, which took place right after Casey was arrested, their daughter Casey. Those interviews, two different people really. George Anthony saying that he just can't put the pieces together. He's dumbfounded by anything. Cindy Anthony, the mother, trying to defend Casey any way that she could, trying to put the pieces together. One other thing, Jane, the lowest of the low. In some parts of the country, they would say lower than a snake's belly. The deal is Casey Anthony, we have found out, stole from her daughter's piggy bank, Caylee Anthony's piggy bank. She had a coin collection there. Also, apparently, Casey got online and stole money from a college fund that was set up for Caylee by her grandfather, George. There was $400 in there. Now there's only $5.
That is absolutely stomach-churning that a mother, any mother, would steal from her own daughter's piggy bank. Boy, does that speak volumes, doesn't it? Now, there's so much tape we want to get to. There's new information in this tape. We want you to hear it for yourself. Let's start with George talking about that smell.
I don't know why I stuck the key in the ignition. I started to turn it, and I'm like, "No, George, you can't do this. You're doing this wrong." I looked in the backseat a little bit more. I didn't see anything. I looked around as quick as I could. I scanned. I'm looking for everything.
Yeah.
And I told the guy, I said, "Can you walk around with me to the rear of the car?" He says, "Why?" And I said, "Man, there's a smell in this car, and I just got to know where it's coming from." As I walked around the back of that car, before I stuck the key in it, I did whisper to myself, "I hope it's not my daughter or my granddaughter." I felt that in my heart. I felt that. I'm like, please don't let it be either one of them.
Now, what's fascinating about this, Tad Tobias, who is a former prosecutor who specializes in prosecuting no-body homicides, is that this grandfather is saying basically that smell, I was a cop for years, I know that smell, but later, he's like, that's not my granddaughter in that car. That smell wasn't my granddaughter. So he's telling different stories to different people. Would you say this is the more honest George, the more straightforward George talking to the FBI?
I think so, Jane. I mean, I have to say I share the opinion that once you smell a decomposing body, you do never forget the smell. And I think we see throughout this tape George speaking very honestly. He's not filtering his thoughts as to how it's going to affect the investigation into his daughter. but he gives his honest thoughts, and I think they're quite telling. A lot of the things he says on this tape are frankly going to be very difficult and damning against Casey.
Yeah, well, we have to, as we look at these tapes, imagine the trial is supposedly coming up January 5th. We'll see if it ever happens on that date. That's doubtful. But these tapes will undoubtedly be played in some way, shape, or form in that trial. So as you watch them, think about how it's going to be used by the prosecution and the defense. Now we're going to talk, listen to George talking about the stain in the trunk. Listen to this.
So you saw a stain in the trunk?
Probably about the size of a basketball, maybe just a little bit, not completely circular. It has some...
It was
Yeah,
not a certain...
Right, to draw a particular design on it, that I couldn't do, but I can tell you, I just stick my nose as close as I can get to it. Man, it's a very strong odor. It's right where the spare tire's at. There's a spare tire cover.
Was it where the pizza was sitting? It was not where the pizza was
It
sitting.
was more in the center of the trunk.
Okay, Dr. David Posey, medical examiner and forensic pathologist, he's talking about the stain in the trunk, which was approximately the size of a basketball, not totally circular, but somewhat, and it has this liquid that produced a strong odor. What are we talking about there, and why was there no DNA found in that?
Well, in order to have DNA, you have to have cellular material, and the liquid could be just purged from the body or whatever the decomposing object is. And they're looking for the cellular evidence. That's why they've taken the car in and they've basically taken it apart. You have to have some cellular matter, then you can find some, hopefully find some DNA, provided it's not degraded.
Just to translate that into people speak, what I understand is that sometimes a body, when it's dead, will exude something called cadaverine fluid, which does not contain DNA. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's just purge. It's just like it's water, maybe some, like salt materials. It has
But can't you tell it's a human being?
Not from that by itself, no. The smell gives you a pretty good idea, but that's where the cadaver dogs come in, and they're very helpful. They can differentiate between human and non-human, but a lot of times you may smell a dead cat or a dead rat or a coon or something. It'll have a similar smell, but believe me, the body smell is even different from that of an animal.
Well, you just heard George, who was a cop for many years, talking about that smell, and it's absolutely fascinating to me that we have all these pieces of forensics lining up, but they're all kind of slivers. None of them is an outright DNA match with this missing child. Now, what's also absolutely shocking is this whole notion that Top Mom Casey raided her child's piggy bank. Listen to what George has to say about that.
As far as other monies that my daughter was taking, she took a small quarter coin collection thing that I had. I know she's been taking money from my granddaughter's bank because I'm always dropping $1, $5, quarters. You know, one day you go in there and that bank is heavy. I mean, it's a good-sized piggy bank, and you know you put money in there. You know it. There's nothing.
It just boggles my mind. You know, a kid's piggy bank. Casey is taking money, quarters, out of the kid's piggy bank. It really blows my mind. Lillian Glass, we got to bring the shrink in to analyze that behavior. You're a psychologist and body language expert. What do you make of a mom taking money out of her own child's piggy bank?
Well, it shows, Jane, how selfish she is and how heartless she is to take money from her own child, her own baby. Unacceptable.